beautiful body out there. Happy Monday. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. And I hope you are absolutely having a beautiful, magical month, January, the new year. And I hope it's going really, really well for you all. I know that it's begun for a lot of people already on some tenacious ground, to say the least. I know the Zappity Doodah Day is having a field day at the moment. It's actually very upsetting to see some of the stuff. But anyway, when I do, we'll always just send prayers and good wishes because my word, these certainly are, excuse me, crazy times. Anyway, having said that, we have our beautiful Brice with us, and of course, Amone. How is everybody today? Did you have a great weekend?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Good.
We've got a
Sorry, I know we have a lag again on this blinking internet. Anyway, but what I'm going to do so that I don't have to spend too much time talking, because as you know that, as I said, we've got this load shedding off the charts right now. We're currently on stage 6, which means we get 8 to 10 hours a day of load shedding, which means that our internet, of course, that really whacks the towers because nothing charges up properly. And so, yeah, the internet is at the moment all over South Africa, very dodgy. So I'm going to hand over to you, Brice, for the Emerald tablets. But I don't know, is there anything you wanted to say? We chatted quite a bit about the Emerald, the Shadow Work Challenge that's coming up on the 21st of January.
yes.
I know that Brice, you've been sending out the tablet. The tablet. I'm on about tablets today, aren't I? You've sent out the template. But
Yes.
if there's anyone else who wants to join the Shadow Work Challenge, Mornay will put the email address in the comment or the chat section. Yeah, so you guys can email Brice and just ask her to send you the template for when we begin. Yeah, I think, Morna will put it up there now. Yeah, there we go. shadowchallenge@gmail.com. So
Yes.
if you guys want to join us, it's pretty concise. It's, and I think we can just leave it up there, Morna. We can actually leave that email address up there. And then, all the information's in there. I'll be doing the 21 days Serena Mascara Challenge. I've been practicing, I want to tell you guys, because unless I can do it myself, I'm never going to give it to you guys to do.
Yes.
Yes, at the moment, I'm on my second rotation. I did 1 week of 36, 1 week of 72, 1 week of 108. And then I did a couple, 72 for like 3 days, 36. I was doing it pretty much every day. And now again, I'm on my second rotation. And today was my second day of 108. So I've got 5 more 108s to go before I finish my second rotation of the same challenge. I got to tell you, it is amazing. I feel incredible. Stuff comes up, I want to tell you, at the least expected, at the time you'd expect at least. I've really, really, really enjoyed it. It's amazing. And, the more you do it, the stronger I feel. And you just get more and more into the zone. You're just so in the zone. It's really, really, and I hope all of you join it. But of course, I understand not everyone's going to, but that's fine too. And then we're going to have the 3-day water fast that I'm hosting as well, which is coming up towards the end of the challenge. So when you've done everything, we're going to do a water fast for 3 days, which is also in the template. So anyway, from my side, I'm going to hand over to Brice. Enough babbling from me.
Don't panic about some of these things coming up later in the challenge. That was one of the biggest mistakes I used to make in my yoga practice. Because, as you know, Ashtanga yoga, my lineage, it's a set practice and you go through the 6 different series. And in second series, there's a really intense back bend that we do. And when you're learning second series, you have 2 hours on your mat. So you're doing all of primary series and then part of second series. And this back bend called Kapotasana, I would literally be in my first sun salutations at the beginning of my practice, already stressing about Kapotasana that wasn't due to come for another hour and a half, you know? So that's a practice in itself. So all of these big things are coming towards the end of the challenge. So for all of you guys doing the challenge, take it one day at a time, start from the beginning, be here now, be where you are. And by the time you get to the portion on fasting or the sun salutation challenge, you might have a totally different perspective on yourself and your ability to do things. So that in itself is its own shadow work challenge, is that anxiety that comes up, is why are you panicked about something so far down the line. I also want to say too, last shadow work challenge, we had over 600 people participating for the 30-day. I'm expecting between 600 and 1,000 people for this 60-day. So when you email me for the shadow work challenge, just send me a basic email that says I'm in, nothing else. It's like, it's going to take me a long time. So if you have questions about it, hold your questions until you actually see the template for yourself. Just because I'm sending you the template does not mean that you are beholden to everything on it. Read through the template first, and then later on we can address your questions. But right now, this week, my main priority is just making sure every person who wants to participate gets the template. That's my main priority. I'm just one person. I don't have any. I'm still working on training. My dog's very smart, but I don't know if he's smart enough to know how to be my assistant. So I'm still just a one-man show over here. So just be mindful when you're emailing me, or if you do have questions and they don't get answered right away, don't worry. We will handle them as we get deeper into the challenge. Okay. So have faith in yourself, trust yourself, know that you are not as fragile as you think you are, and you are stronger than you think you are. And this is, if you're scared, if there's something about this challenge that scares you, it probably means you should do it. So
Exactly. I agree. I agree.
So, all right, should we get into number 1,000, part 1,576 of tablet 3, how not to be an asshole by Thoth? So
Yes, exactly. I was going to say we're going to be carrying on for a number of weeks, but we're also starting, for those of you who didn't hear, on Wednesday, the Sophia Code.
yes.
So join us for that.
Awesome.
We're going to start on Wellness Wednesday, a couple of weeks with Brice, doing book club, the Sophia Code. And yeah.
Yeah, so even if you've already done it the first time, do it with us again, because the more you do this stuff, as everybody knows who's on these journeys, it takes multiple times of reviewing the same thing over and over again for it to impact you. And Shanti, somebody did send me, I got to go back and find it. Somebody did send me her contact, the girl who wrote the Sophia Code. So if you are that person that sent it to me, will you email it to me again? Because I've got so many emails. I'm trying to figure out where I put it, because I personally would love to speak to this woman, because we know that she is a lot like us. She experienced different than us. She had a front row seat and was part of this club, this group of controllers, and that's where she got her talents, and now she's using her talents for the good. And so I would love to be able to talk to her, the girl who channeled the Sophia Code. So anyway, all right. Well, let's get into the Emerald tablets. And again, yes. I know I say this every class, every episode. Tablet 3, again, just to review, tablet 1, tablet 2, where we already covered, which you can find them on Shanti and Mornay's channel. We went through basically tablet 1 and tablet 2 was the who, what, where, when, why, and how. Like, who is Thoth? Where do these tablets come from? It talks a lot about Atlantis, the fall of Atlantis. And I found those to be very fascinating because that basically was setting up the story, right? As to who this person is, why he's writing these tablets. And so if you missed those episodes, go back and rewatch them, because it sets it up for you. And it kind of leads us into, gives kind of some credence to the whole Tartaria thing, because he kind of, I feel like the Atlantis timeline is also shedding light to the Tartarian timeline too. And so I would highly suggest going back and watching those on Aquarius Rising Africa. But tablet 3, things take a change, because now Thoth is literally teaching us. Now he's saying, they're called the keys of wisdom, or the key of wisdom, tablet 3. But the reason why it's taking us so long to get through this is because every single verse is so powerful that we need to stop and talk about it, because we joke and say it's literally Thoth telling you how not to be an asshole. Like, basically, like, don't be a jerk. Like, don't listen to gossip. Like, really work on yourself is what he's saying. So now we're starting today at verse 24. Called We Are Stardust. And we kind of spoke about this last week with us being like star royalty. So what he's saying, just leading up. So if you missed the videos before this on to part 3, go back, our tablet 3, go back and watch them building up. We're not starting with verse 1, we're starting with verse 24. And so if you remember, he was talking about kind of how back in either the first or second tablet, he spoke about how when you're on the other side of the veil, when you are without a body, when it's just your pure soul, you see other souls or other people on the earth. You don't really see their physical body. You see their soul. And if you remember, he described it like flickering lights everywhere, like fireflies, flickering lights. And the lights that were the brightest were the souls that had shed a lot of had worked through their shadow side, had worked through their stuff, had shed a lot of that bondage. And so it's not saying that, some souls are brighter than others inherently. It's just saying the ones that were dimmer had a lot more bondage over them. And that's what we're working through. Hence why this kind of coincides with the Shadow Work Challenge. We're working on shedding the bondage, and he talked about in tablet 3 before this, remember, that we literally are enslaving ourselves. We are enslaving ourselves, which is what I think, what we've spoken a lot. You guys have spoken a lot. I've spoken a lot about. Anybody who has been on a long journey of self-healing, especially with Eastern philosophy, that's kind of the crux of it, is that you are your own captor. It's the mental prison, right? It's the beliefs that you hold about yourself, because thoughts are energy. And so it creates, and so it's at one point, if you have, I heard someone say, like, if you grow up, let's just say you grew up in an abusive home, at some point, you subconsciously take over from your abuser and start abusing yourself, which is why a lot of times people who grew up in abusive homes will get into the pattern of being in abusive relationships, because they've taken that role over now. And so they have to go back and work on those wounds themselves to be able to release that pattern of thought that they're enslaved to. So Thoth has covered all of this that we've all talked about. Well, he's also talking about, we know that within our lives on Earth, we know that, my existence as Brice, Mornay's existence as Mornay, Shanti's existence as Shanti are just here for this one time as these identities. And the next life, new identity, same soul, new identity. And so the body that we possess in yoga, we call it, the body is the Shakti of the soul. It's the creation of the soul. But when we're looking at matter, which is what our bodies are, it's nature, and we look at the soul, even though nature is temporary, it's still the expression of the soul. So there's still traits within the DNA patterning that show us where we galactically come from. And that's what we're getting into. And now we know that on our timeline right now, which we know way back from tablet 1, the first verse, where he basically says, yo, I'm writing this shit for you guys. Like, basically, that's what he's saying. He's like, this is for you guys, as in you right now listening to this, as in Shanti, Mornay, and myself. The tablets were written for us, not for any generation before us, but for us in this timeline right now. And so what we know, that with our DNA, we know that we have 2 strands of DNA that are active, right? But we're supposed to have 12 strands of active DNA. So we have 10 strands of DNA that science calls junk DNA. But we know that DNA is not junk DNA. It's a part of, once our soul really viscerally knows that that's not junk DNA, it can start to turn on those DNA patterns. And this is what I think a lot of the yogis of the past and of the current, like we hear stories when back in the turn of the century in the 1800s to 1900s, when there were English explorers exploring Tibet in the Himalayas, they would, these white dudes from England would be bundled up in all these winter clothes, and they would walk past yogis in loincloths sleeping on snow and be fine. And so this gets into like the siddhis that we talk about in yoga, where when the soul starts to know itself, different DNA patterns can be enacted and activated within the body. And I believe that the 10 DNA strands that are dormant in us right now are the 10 missing tribes of Israel. That's what I believe that's referring to. The 12 tribes of Israel are the galactic heritage. And so when he's talking about stardust, when he's in this third tablet, he's talked about you gotta be the fire, you gotta work on yourself, you're enslaved to yourself. Doesn't matter what somebody does to you, if you comply. How many people got the zapperty doodah because they were told to? How many people do you know they did it to themselves because somebody told them to, whereas most of us watching said no? So where are you that's something I think we can all ask ourselves. Where am I enslaving myself? Where am I like following along with something that's been taught to me that's not necessarily healthy, and I'm doing it to myself, right? So anyway, so now we're getting into the body and how the soul uses the body, which is made up of heritage from the galactics, right? Which then goes back to Atlantis, because we know the Atlanteans were a mixture of Earth-based molecules and Anunnaki or other beings, off-worlders that are not. We know that we're a mixture of all of that, right? And that's what makes, and if you read like the Law of One, the Cassiopeians, that's what makes Earth so potent. That's why Earth is such a valuable territory for both sides of this great war of polarity, because us as humans are a mixture of everything. And so we are some of the most powerful entities in God's kingdom because we are a mixture of everything. And so, but we just don't know that, right? So that, and the bad guys want to keep us dumbed down because they're afraid of us. And so he's in this section, he's starting to get into it. Now we are going to actually get into the chakras. They're going to talk about the chakras coming up soon too. So, and what that means with because I feel like the chakra system is kind of like, it's kind of a bridge that connects the energetic spiritual body to the physical body. It's kind of one of those bridges that connects the two, right? Because if there's an issue with the third chakra, it's going to manifest in a physical way. And so it's amazing. So I just wanted to prepare you guys. So verse 24 from tablet 3, man is a star bound to a body until in the end he is freed through his strife. He is freed through his strife. That's the friction we talk about. Only by struggling and toiling thy utmost shall the star within thee bloom out in new life. He who knows the commencements of all things, free is his star from the realms of night. And so that's the original translation. Now, again, speaking of the Shadow Work Challenge, that's what he's talking about. Our friend Cindy says it best. If your life is perfect and there's no type of perceived suffering or pain, then you would never question. You would never question where you come from or what the point of life is. But because that's why Guruji used to say pain is necessary. It's an instigator for you to start going, wait a minute, I'm uncomfortable, something hurts, something doesn't feel right, I need to investigate. And that's what he's saying. And that's what the Shadow Work Challenge is all about. And daily shadow work, facing that within you, that friction. He says he is freed through his strife. Because my friction is going to be different from Shanti and Mornay's. It depends on what you've experienced is what's going to trigger you, right? So I thought that was very fascinating. I mean, God works in mysterious ways.
I just want to say that as well. When we're talking about being freed through your strife, that really is, if we look at what Satanism is, if you think about that. And this is why I want to say as well, why Lucifer would be considered the light bearer.
Yeah. And
again, not because we want to go and sit and drink wine and snort cocaine with the Satanists, that's not what I'm saying, and sacrifice kids and what have you. But all of humanity has kind of gotten drawn into there. I mean, if you believe in past lives and reincarnation, you all know we've all been in the dodgy deep end of life at some point. And only through many lifetimes of experiencing that repetition of, let's say, intolerance, judgment, jealousy, whatever it is, we then get to realize and come to that place of full realization. So that's where the alchemy lies. And that's why in this lifetime now, where we're at this place on our timeline, we can experience the alchemy, the true alchemy of spirit. Because alchemy is not about some old men concocting liquids and potions and lotions. Yes, it's that as well, but that's on a physical level. We talk about the alchemy of the spirit. And once you've understood your strife, once you've understood the purpose, the gift, the expansion that your strife has brought, I mean, for me, this is such an important thing. When my fiance was hijacked and murdered, that pain brought me to the place of being a healer with a lot more compassion than what I would have had prior to that experience. Only through experiencing death, having a miscarriage, having all sorts of things, and really digging deep and into finding what it is and the gift that this is bringing me, and or maybe just being able to let go and let God. That's the gift in every situation, really. So that's what it is. It's really coming to terms with the strife, understanding what the strife has brought us. Every situation, especially the super shitty ones, especially the shitty ones, have the best gifts to offer you. So you don't have to know what that is. It'll be revealed to you in time. And you go, oh, well, why later? Because you got to put yourself in the place of preparing yourself to receive the truth. So then you would say, yes, I understand that happened for a greater purpose. I've no idea, God, what it is, but can you just show me? You know me, I'm a little bit and make it very obvious what it is. And then carry on with your business. And bam, just like that, something will reveal itself that answers your question. And that's the beauty of what this is about. So strife is really us having moved against the grain of who we are. It's going, well, nature is God in action, right? When you look at nature, nature's about creating. But it's human beings' nature as well to go against nature.
Yeah. It's the opposing forces.
This is what happens. Yeah, this is what happens when we go against nature. That's the thing. So that's really what it is. Strife is going against nature and God's will for us. That's what it is.
And it's like one of my favorite stories is the Ramayana. That's why I love the Indian stories so much, is because they're metaphor. And it's, Ram, it's the Ramayana, Ram. The avatar of God is Ram in this story. And he marries Sita, his beloved Sita. And this 10-headed demon named Ravana comes along. He's so powerful. He's this demon that if you cut one head off, another one just appears. You can't defeat him. And Ravana finds Sita and kidnaps Sita and takes her to Sri Lanka and hides her. Well, Hanuman, who is the monkey god of war, he's also associated with Tuesday and Mars. Hanuman's a mischievous little fellow. He forgets who he is sometimes too. And he gets into mischief a lot. I love Hanuman. And Ram hires Hanuman to help him find Sita. Well, in the process, Hanuman remembers who he is. And so he's able to enact these God-given powers where he can jump from the coast of India all the way to Sri Lanka, where he believes Ravana is holding Sita. And he goes and he finds Sita, and he sees that Sita is being held in this forest. And it'd be very easy for Hanuman just to kidnap Sita back, right? Come Sita with me and bring her back to Ram. But if he doesn't defeat and challenge Ravana, then the cycle will just keep continuing itself. She'll get kidnapped, then she'll get kidnapped back over and over, like it being on a never-ending hamster wheel. And so Hanuman realizes that he has to do the unthinkable. He has to do the thing that no one can do. He has to defeat Ravana, the demon who cannot be defeated. I won't tell you what happens, but at the end of the story, he does defeat Ravana, and he brings Sita back to Ram. Well, this isn't really a story about a monkey god or a 10-headed demon. This is a story about you and you alone, because Ram in this story is God. Sita is your soul. Ravana is your ego, your false sense of self. Hanuman, that's your courage. It takes courage to remember who, and Hanuman goes through this process of remembering through Vayu, through the breath, through the wind, the pranayama, the connection. God breathed life into man and man stood up. It's the same thing that the Christians learn, that the Hindu people study with this story of the Rama. It's the same thing. The breath, the wind, the courage to be your own warrior, to go up. It's the same story as the Bhagavad Gita with Arjuna, and Krishna is the avatar in the Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna is sitting there going, oh shit, I don't want to do this. When he's on the battlefield, and Krishna was like, toughen up, Buttercup. This is what you signed up for. You're a warrior. You've got to do this.
And remember in that story, all his enemies were his family, his friends, and it was the people, and that's the thing, which is very interesting, because it's really about, when we again looking at the mythology, if you will, of that story. Not really mythology, that's the wrong word, but the essence of it. It's about, also always understanding your family, your friends, those that are closest to you are going to often give you your greatest opposition.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily physically, but it's spiritually as well. So you are challenged by the ones that love you the most. You are challenged by yourself, by those close bloodline parts of you, if that makes sense at all. I know it probably doesn't, but I'm trying to sort of find a way. But what I'm saying is, it's like when we understand that we ourselves have to decide for ourselves what path we choose, and doesn't matter who contends us in the long run. It's about the choices we make and how we choose to go along with that, driven by spirit. But also, in the Hindu teachings, it talks about man and his five senses, where Krishna is riding the carriage with the horses, and then all these horses, really need to be reined in, and that's when you are able to rein in your five senses, which are going haywire. And all over the show, we understand what horses are like, right? So you've got to be able to rein yourself in, focus and channel and steer yourself in the right direction, all at the same time, or you symbiotically in a productive way. And you're often going to find a lot of resistance from yourself. Yourself, your family represents those closest to you, right? Your loved ones. There are going to be many times you've got to disagree with them. Do you buckle down to what somebody else wants, or do you stand up for what is true to you and what you feel is right for you in a constructive way that doesn't run out of all over the place? You know what I'm saying?
We know that your family, your siblings, your parents, those are the people that offer you the most karmic lessons. And all karma is not something to be afraid of. Karma is just cause and effect. It's just your work. I saw a meme once and I thought it was hysterical. I still laugh at it. It's like your siblings are this like strange relationship you have in your life, where you would never let your sibling borrow your phone charger, but you would absolutely give them a kidney. Like, it's just that strange relationship. No way are you touching my damn phone charger because you're going to lose it, but I'll totally give you my kidney. And so if you think in a very funny way, a very comical way, if you think about like your siblings or your parents or your cousins, these people that you're stuck with because they're your blood. What are they teaching you? And a lot of us, I think, have butted heads with I think a lot of us are, I know, Shanti, you say we're not the black sheeps, we're the sparkly sheeps. We're the ones that we trigger them too.
The golden ones, sparkly golden tie-dyed ones. Let's never forget.
We're the bedazzled sheep, and so we trigger our family too. We think about how many times we're triggered, but because a lot of us watching have gone against the grain, have challenged the narrative our whole lives, and maybe your family hasn't. And so by you just being like,
You know what? Sorry to interrupt you, and I think it might be appropriate to share this. And I'm actually doing a talk with Catherine Edwards tomorrow on solutions with Aquarius rising and our topic. And I definitely claimed this after yesterday. The year of 2023 is the year of the heart. So I'm going to be talking about the year of the heart as I've understood it in an amazing insight that I received yesterday. But one of the things that triggered that was my sister, one of my sisters, who's had number 3 in Australia and has been pretty ill and collapsed a few days ago.
Oh,
But the
no.
crazy thing was that it was Thursday last week. I had just done 72 rounds of sun salutations, right? And I was lying on my yoga mat and I was just in child's pose after I'd been stretching and stuff and just kind of enjoying. And suddenly this pain in my chest came up and I just started sobbing. It was so sore. And I knew my sister, I saw, God gave me the picture of my sister collapsing. And I prayed like I hadn't prayed before. I'm telling you, I just said, God, just take care of her. Please just take care of her. And I sat for about 15 minutes and then I worked with the energy as well, distance. And it was that day that I had like 11 and a half hours of load shedding consecutive. So I was going to call her later, but by the time I'd showered and done my appointment and I wanted to call her, all my equipment was dead.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to call her. And of course, she's a good few hours ahead of me. The next morning at the same time, my mum walks in. While I'd also just finished doing yoga, another 72, my mum walks in and she says, do you know that I just want to tell you that your sister collapsed yesterday? And I nearly freaked out. So it was about, then I spoke to her about half an hour later and I said to her, what time did this happen? And she told me it was, and we worked out, it was the same time that I had my insight on my yoga mat. And then the next day, I wanted to be so mad at her husband because I know he's very pro the zapper. And I know that he's had a big influence on her in terms of that. But in that moment, I have to tell you, I was shown how much he loves her. I felt it in every cell of my body, how concerned he was for her, and how much he felt that he was doing the right thing for the family. I got to tell you, that was an incredible revelation to me. Because I said, God, I'm just praying for kindness. I just want to be kind. I want to be kind. I don't want to be angry. I just want to be kind. And in that moment, God revealed to me how much he loves her and how concerned he is about her and how much he thought he was doing the right thing. It was also revealed to me a few days before, but I'm going to talk with the story on Catherine tomorrow. How God showed me that the minute we wake up, we counteract the jab. So that happened on New Year's Day, by the way, the 1st of January. I felt so relieved. And I know that that was like the run up to what was happening with my sister. So it was in that moment, everything came together. And, for me, what that has shown us, and especially what you're talking about now, we are made of stardust. And some of us, we are not in the same place mentally and spiritually. And we have got to stop judging. Hello, myself. I was you guys have heard me on the show. Yes, I tried not to, but I just didn't know how not to. But in that moment, and that's why I say pray, let source or God or your creator, whatever you choose to call it, show you what it is. Because in that moment, I was able to see and let go. And since then, working with my sister a lot. And she's responding well. She's a lot better.
So for your sister, this could have been the friction that her soul needed in order to start
Exactly.
shifting. So we can't
But
we can't interrupt somebody's
that,
karma.
my point is, it's not about interrupting the karma. I get that. But when I became aware and I lost judgment in the situation, my spirit was able to support her. I can't support her when I'm judging her. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that is why it's so important for us all to lose judgment. We cannot support our brothers and sisters while we are judging them. We support them in love. And I have not had an angry thought come to her. And we've had friction on this a few months ago. Oh boy, she and I had some tough words to say to each other. But in the moment when I was able to let my judgment go towards her as well as her husband, I'm ashamed to say, but it was there, then my love was able to embrace them and the situation and me and help the healing in that way.
And I think a lot of times your judgment was coming from a place of love too, and that was that recognition. Because I think a lot of us don't want to see our families hurt, or and maybe
the problem is when we do that, we automatically tend to judge, even like the Christians. Come on, they can't help it. We're doing exactly the same thing, So it's like, because of our fear, we judge them according to our standards. So now when we understand everyone is doing it, no one wants their child to die of myocarditis. No one wants to have whatever these illnesses are that are coming up, and no one wants that. But a lot of people aren't educated in the way that we've been. A lot of people have not really had to decide between my family, feeding them or not. So they sacrifice themselves. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't think most of us understand pressure that a lot of these people have been under when you work. I haven't worked for a company since I'm 23. I'm working on my own since I'm 23. I wouldn't know what it feels like to have a boss. The boss is putting pressure on me, and I feel like I've got nothing else to go, and the whole world is caving in on you. I think for me that became very real, and that's how we can do what we can to change the world, and just understand. Let's not judge. I'm seeing so many stuff. Well, we told you so. We told you so. You're seeing these things. We told you so. I'm going, just stop, please. Just stop. These are innocent people, the majority of them, who thought they were doing the right thing. And that's what I'm saying. For us to let our fears go and realize everyone is doing what is right for them, and they have that with God, we don't have a right to actually even talk about it. That was what was so real to me. So I just want to say, from that perspective, when we're looking at this, we are stardust, that is connected to a body. Absolutely. Equally powerful. And when our body says it's time to go back to our creator and become stardust again, and that's cool.
I know for me, I've gotten a ton of emails from people who got number one. They went on the first Ferris wheel ride, we'll say, and then they woke up. And I agree with you. I think for some people, for their souls, the soul knowing itself, if we're talking about strife, the strife is going to look different for everyone. And we can't judge what somebody's friction is because it doesn't look like our own friction. So you're absolutely correct. And, for a lot of people, it took that first one for them to go, wait a minute, and wake up. And so in that way, they say, what's the saying? What the devil will use for bad, God will use for good. And that friction, and you're right. If God did not want the polarity with Lucifer, he would have already gotten rid of Lucifer.
That's the thing. We've got to really understand that. Lucifer really shows us our fears. Lucifer really is the epitome of human fear. So when you are confronted by a demon or an entity or a ghost or a person or a situation that challenges you and makes you fear, remember, fear, false evidence appearing real. Fear's job is to deceive you. Fear's job is make you think and believe that you can't achieve something. That's fear's job, and fear does its job very, very well. Your job is when you feel that fear, recognize what it's about, walk towards it anyway, and you'll see it dissolve. It doesn't even shatter, it just dissolves. Because then you understand false evidence appearing real.
I shared, if you guys watching, if you go to my channel, look on the shorts, I also shared it in the Signal group. I did a bar class yesterday with Marnie Alton, and she has words of reverence at the end. And she kind of spoke about this, where she talked about, with the physical, if you think about a workout, you're breaking your muscles down so that they can rebuild stronger. And she kind of correlated that to what Shanti is saying. Like, we can either face fear and grow, or we can run back to what we know. But you can't grow and not face fear at the state. The two have to go together, because that's what triggers, that's what pushes you to the point of actually changing. If nothing's going to make you change, then you're not going to change. Right. And so it's a beautiful thing when you start to really look at it from, and it takes, and when you start, at least from my experience, growing up in a church, being told these nasty, horrible things that are out of my control with demonic beings and all this kind of stuff. But then when you look at the actual Eastern teachings, it makes the fear purposeful. Like, there is a reason behind it. There is
fear is very good because it triggers you. It gets you to act as well.
Yes.
I mean, you've got to, if you were in the African bush, and boy, oh boy, there's a lion or a leopard coming up behind you, every hair on your neck stands up, fear is a good thing, because you've got to do so. Fear can be a very good thing. It's a warning.
Yes.
Fear is a warning.
It's not something that it's out of your control either. And that's one thing I think all religions kind of do, is they make you think it's so out of your control. But when you realize that your fear, your friction is actually your golden lotto ticket to growth, your perception on yourself and your relationship with the divine changes so much, because when you feel you're not powerless, and that feeling of powerless is forcing you to find where your strength is. Right? Your weaknesses become your strengths. And we're seeing this taught to us over and over and over again. And when you finally realize that, you do start to shift, and organizations do start lessening their grip on you, because you have that power within yourself. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and go to verse 25, which everything in the universe changes, which is this is the crux of human suffering, according to the Yoga Sutras, is that everything is constantly changing. What you think eternal is always changing, and therefore you're fluctuating, but actually it's that stillness inside that's eternal. So I'm like, all right, Thoth, you're totally mirroring what Patanjali says, what Yeshua says, what all these great teachers have said. Remember, oh man, that all which exists is only another form of that which exists not. So remember, oh man, that all which exists is only another form of that which exists not. Everything that has a being is passing into yet other being, and thou thyself are not an exception. And that's energy. That's the scientific law of energy, right? Energy cannot be destroyed or created. It can only be transmuted. So going back to what he said before with the strife and the friction, okay, so you have an issue in your life. You struggle with abandonment. You have these betrayal issues. They keep resurfacing over and over and over and over again. You have to transmute that, because it's not just going to go away.
What we tend to do is, because as you say, energy can never be created, destroyed, only ever transferred or transformed. So if you are not transforming or transmuting it, you've transferred it.
Yeah.
So you've transferred it to another part of your existence, another part in your mind, hidden it in another part of your body, because your body is super, super, super duper intelligent. Your body is your spirit in physical form. Oh boy, this body is clever. I can tell you, when you start working with your body, it's beautiful. You don't need anyone else. You got your body, your best friend. This body is the cheekiest thing. It's the funniest thing. It's the cleverest thing. It wants to do things. It's waiting for us to catch up. And that's what I'm saying. So we can go do cool things like teleport and, like bounce
Sleep
around.
on snow with
Yeah.
just a loincloth on and be totally fine.
So yeah. So the whole thing is, until we've understood the alchemy or the alchemizing or the transmutation or the transforming of energy, we're going to transfer it. And that's what we've been doing for a very long time. We've transferred it to doctors to take care of our health,
I was just thinking that, yeah.
psychologists, to psychiatrists, to mothers, to fathers, to husbands, to wives. You bitch, you bastard. All of our pain we've transferred, right? Yeah. Which is why we are, if you're looking at the way that the world is right now, look at human consciousness, we're surrounded by pain everywhere. We're surrounded by pain, right? Pain is the familiar essence to everyone on this planet. So really, when each and every one of us, because Earth carries our collective pain that we project. All of us have projected pain onto the earth, which is why she's so full of pain. Yeah. So when each and every one of us collectively and individually take back our pain and turn that pain into power, because that pain has been the thing that you've transferred, right? Don't ever forget that. So go look at it. It's in your cells. It's like cement in your cells. It's coming through as illness, disease, sometimes even hereditary, sometimes genetic. You can change a genetic illness. I promise you can. You can have it in relationships. It can be toxic relationships. It can be losing people around you to death, right? You could be losing a lot of people. You could be surrounded by death. You could be losing your children or your animals all the time or something. It's a pattern that we create. So when we have something like that we actually don't are unaware of how it even exists, we just think that's our lot in life. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not your lot in life, no matter what it is. I'm not going to say that if you only have one arm and one leg, that you can grow your limb back tomorrow. I cannot say that, but I'm saying that it's possible. I'm not saying I know how to show you how to do it. I don't. But I'm saying that it's possible. That's what I'm saying.
And that's what, because I'm going to go ahead and skip to what Shishat Thought's counterpart is Divine Feminine says about this. All is created by thought first. So anything created by man was once a thought. So in nature, a seed becomes a tree, a cloud turns into rain, a stream emerges as a mighty river. All is constantly changing. Humanity is constantly changing, even when you think you are staying still. This continual change is referred to by one of the immutable laws of the universe. And we've been through these laws, but she's going to remind us again, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Everything is constantly changing. Some changes are not noticed as they are occurring at a cellular or atomic levels, but they are changing nonetheless. And that, absolutely. I mean, that's just the truth of it. So she's talking about that stream now eventually becoming the mighty river, and so, and I think that's something too, people, and maybe it's our curse of being born in this timeline where we're used to things just being so instantaneous that we skip a lot.
Yes, I and I want to just, someone is just Cheryl. Sorry, Cheryl, were you there? How do you heal genetic problems? Well, I want to say it's easy. It's easy when you get it, because it's very difficult to explain on a show like this because each one is individual. But basically, in a nutshell, you all choose to come into your family bloodline, into your family lineage. Before you were born as this teeny tiny little tot baby coming out there, your soul knew exactly where it was going, who it wanted as its parents, and why it chose those parents, right? So very often that would be your karma. It would be your karma to have a genetic heart disease, the same as your mother or your father, or a cancer or a something. But when you realize every illness or dis-ease in the body is really the body out of sorts. So it's not necessarily your genetic makeup, but it's the mirror that you have for your genetic makeup. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So when you understand my father's illness is not me, my mother's illness is not me, I merely came into this family because they too are battling with the same issues as me. And then we get told and it is. I'm not saying it's not in your DNA or not in your genetics, but remember, when you are connected with your spiritual intelligence or the divine or God, when you are aligned, there is nothing more powerful than that. No medbed, no AI,
Yeah.
no nothing. You are then healed by the divine. Why? Because you know and believe A, it's possible, B, you deserve it, and C, why the hell not?
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up that thing, because that's the thing about like that I get concerned about with like the med beds, is that people are transferring the power over to the med bed. And I know from people I know that are familiar with this technology, that the med bed is not going to work on you unless you've worked on yourself. It's only going to vibrationally meet you where you are. And so start working now. Start breaking this down now, because there is no, and Shanti's right. It's kind of like this oxymoron a little bit, because it's almost comical when you realize the truth, but then viscerally knowing the truth is a challenge, you know? So it's like when you go, because we've been conditioned to be the victim. We're the victim of, oh, like my family, there's cancer is rampant in my family, rampant. And my whole life, I just said, I'm not going to get cancer. Like, I just knew, I was like, I'm not going to get, but it's rampant in my family. So a lot of people start getting into the conditioning of what their genetic karma is, instead of actually dealing with the friction causing that, and so it's complicated. As Shanti said, it's complicated but simple at the same time, and it's just breaking through your own thought patterns. That's the complicated part, is releasing your own. Why do you want to
Yeah.
put, what about you is that you want to put the power in the hands of something else, of someone else, or a med bed, or a doctor? Why are you giving that power away when literally you are a fractal of God? And so if you are a fractal of God, why not? As Shanti says, you can do this. Like, this is easy for you. You're a fucking fractal of God. Like, you got this. Like, didn't God say, like, hello, you're fucking royalty? Like, when you realize that you're royalty, like, are you ever gonna take the knee again to these controllers? Like, but that's the journey, right? It's not about the destination of it's like remembering that and being like, oh shit, like this is all, wow, okay, so I've been given all of these opportunities. And that's, I think Ram Dass is the one that always said that, and I've taken that on, because like for me, I've been given an opportunity to feel my friction in my back. I've been given an opportunity to understand this through this situation here. So does that make sense? Like, sometimes when we have this like fear of genetic inheritance, well, that might be an opportunity for you to realize, like, wait a minute, but I'm not that. I'm a fractal of, like, does that make sense? So don't be afraid. Don't well, I mean, well, I say don't be afraid. I will go back and say, having courage and facing this doesn't mean the fear isn't still there. Courage means you're doing something even though you're batshit scared of doing it, but you're doing it anyway. If you weren't afraid of doing something, it wouldn't be called courage. Right? If you're doing something scary and you have to have courage, it's because you're doing it, you're working with the fear, acknowledging it, but doing it anyway. And that's very powerful. And I tell that to my class on Sundays that I teach. I say this all the time. In the practice of Ashtanga, it's very, very physically demanding. And when it gets to that part in the practice where I see people starting to like sink back into that pain, I just say, remember, you came here on purpose. You came here on purpose. There's power there. So lean into that. Ask it what as Shanti says, ask it what it's there to teach you. You came here, you came into your body, into your family, into everything on purpose. Your soul knew what it was doing. So trust your soul. Your brain's going to freak out. Your ego's going to freak out. That false sense of identity that thinks you're separate from everything else is going to freak out. But your soul is calm, and your soul's like, it's cool, man. This is supposed to happen. It's on purpose. Like, it's fun. It's all cool, man. Like, let it play out, you know? So I know, Shanti, you're on a very tight schedule today. How much time do you have?
Literally 5 more minutes. But while we do that, medical marijuana, Paula, I'm a great fan of medical marijuana. I think it works wonders. I've got even my mom on it, my sister on it now as well. I've taken it for a myriad of things over the years, and it's what healed my breast cancer,
Yeah.
actually. That, and along with my consciousness that I worked with.
Well, plants are vibrational energy. Think about that. I'm a huge supporter. Everybody knows I'm a huge supporter of plant medicine. I love microdosing.
Yeah.
It's plant medicine. It's vibrational. It's a lot. Like, you're taking in the vibration of something living that's going to help you with, you know, versus like chemicals, you know? So absolutely. And I always think that God was like, here you go. Like,
Yeah, well, anything to me that comes from the earth is from God.
yeah.
So if it's coming from the earth and it's created with the right intention and stuff like that, then I have no issue. Again, too much of a good thing is bad.
Yeah.
So you want to have balance.
Moderation.
You know, obviously you're not going to be sucking down 5 mils a night. You're going to be walking around like I don't know what. But you know, it's take it in moderation. Take it with a purpose. Even if it is to meditate, even if it is to open up your consciousness. I'm a great believer in stuff like that. But I do think if you've never had it before, if you've never taken it before, then rather speak to someone who knows what they're talking about and let them advise you. So that
and I will say there is a great, so if you guys are Jordan Maxwell fans, I know he recently passed away. I listened to a great talk of his, and I know he's not the only researcher that has found this, but the tree of life, we know that represents us internally, but also through a lot of these old mystery schools, that was the mushroom, what we call the magic mushroom. And a lot of these great the Elysian mystery schools, I covered that they used a lot of these psychedelics like ayahuasca, peyote, in a controlled environment for a certain amount of days to help people see themselves so that they can go about life and transcend their own shit, not be ordained to a certain belief outside of themselves, but to be able to get deeper in touch. They were using it, something natural, to help people go inside to see themselves for who they really were, what they really needed to work on. So they then had the power and the information post ceremony to continue on their path as a human. And so it's very special. I think we can cover that deeper if you guys want to look in at all these old mystery schools that did. I mean, I think I was like, oh hell yeah, I was totally living in that life, doing that ayahuasca in those tunnels.
Oh yeah.
A lot about me in this life.
Peace spot. I was the one smoking the peace spot.
Oh, totally. I was like, oh yeah, like Woodstock feels very familiar to me, even though I was not around for it. It feels like very familiar, and I don't think I was there. I just think I had done that a lot. Like, I think that's
definitely.
So, I was we call them dirt twirlers in the United States. Dirt twirlers, the people that follow the festivals around, they twirl in the dirt. I was dirt twirling all over all my life. So
beautiful. Okay, guys and girls, I am on a bit of a tight schedule today. You can tell our show was already an hour earlier. Thank you, Brice.
No worries.
So I am off to Gallivant. I'll tell you tomorrow where I go. So have lots of fun. Have lots of fun, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another beautiful, marvelous, magical Monday with Brice. Always so much fun talking to you, honey, and talking about these things. And love our viewers. Thank you, Mornay, for everything you do as well in the back room there, making sure things are working right. Jeez, nowadays the internet is crazy. So God bless you all. I don't know, Brice, is there anything you'd like to say in closing for our viewers?
Just once again, if you need the 60-day shadow work challenge, email me at shadowworkchallenge@gmail.com. If you're scared of it, you should totally do it. And just because you get at least look at the template, it starts on Saturday the 21st. So you've got a few days to read through it and start preparing yourself. And if you're scared, you should do it. If you're not scared, you should do it too. You should all do it.
Well, I'm definitely going to be joining you guys for the full 60 days. That's for sure. And I look forward to the 21-day Surya Namaskar challenge, which I shall be hosting that one, and the 3-day water fast. So you see, I give you all the rough ones. I give you all the rough ones.
See, I transferred that to Shanti. No.
Yeah. The thing is with these, I do it very gently. We do it very gently. We do it kind of like easy. I explain it very well. It's a lovely opening of consciousness. And as the mind opens up, the body opens up, and man, it's just a beautiful experience.
And Mornay's going to be doing childhood trauma stuff. I've already got him in the template, some of his meditations and stuff in the template. Right before you get into the fasting, you're going to be looking at the childhood, kind of looking at some of these things before you dive deep into the deep work. So you're kind of prepared. So,
looking forward to it.
Yes.
Okay, guys. Gotta love and leave you. Mwah. See you soon Wednesday. I'll see you with Brice on the Wellness Wednesday on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa when we start working with the Sophia Code. Excited to do that.
Yep.
Okay. Take it easy, guys. Love you all.
Bye, guys.
See you soon.